Hey crafty friends, this is Anat Kessler with Saturday Extravaganza. Thank you very much for joining me. And today I'm altering an old wood frame that I have here. I have some textured embossed paper in the middle, and I covered it with paper a long time ago and I didn't do anything with it, so now I want to alter it. So the first step is covering it with gesso. As a primer, of course, because of all the stuff we're going to add to it, and to hide that horrible paper that I have here. And you would need probably 2 coats to cover wood properly and prime it for altering. So I'm just covering it with gesso inside on the paper as well, and of course drying it between layers. And this is how it looks after 2 layers of gesso. And the first thing I want to do is add some texture to it with some mesh that I have and a ribbon. And I'm using hot glue gun because I need everything to be really strong, and plus the glue gun will add some more texture as well. So that's like 2 for the price of 1. So this is a really nice ribbon, very textury, that I can add. Watch your fingers when you do that. Just gonna cover the front of the frame with it, and that will give me the initial texture that I need. And I'm also going to add some mesh. It's really old mesh that I have. Cut those little stubborn threads, and I need some more hot glue with my gun. This is a really old mesh that I have. It used to have a sticky back, but not anymore. So I'm just gonna add this here, add a little bit of glue, use this brush to help it stick because I don't want to burn my fingers. And that's for the initial texture is enough. Now I'm just gonna start adding stuff. Now I've talked about my stuff a lot, and I get a lot of questions on where I get it. So first let me just say that I'm gonna use E6000 to glue everything down because I need it to be really hard, and I don't want anything to fall because this is going to be hanging on the wall, and I'm going to use some heavy things, and I need them to really bind with the frame and not fall. So I collect all of this stuff from flea markets, from thrift shops, from my husband's work, from garages that I go to when I fix my car, any DIY stores, any place that I can think of that have this, findings. I also use old jewelry pieces, old clock pieces. Go to your watchmaker or the guy that fixes watches. Sometimes they have stuff they don't need, and things like that. So I have a really big box of these stuff that I like to use every now and then for all my steampunk creations. So first start adding the large things. Sorry about my hand, need to look for something. So you start with the large things and you add them first, and then in between you add the smaller things. And you can also add flowers, you can add chipboard pieces, you can add metal embellishments, beads, whatever you want. I like to keep it in a very steampunk style, so I'm using cogwheels and a lot of metal and hardware and screws and keys and things like that. So I just added this I don't even know how to call that. It's that thing that you put when you need to open a door or something, a hinge of some sort, and I don't even know the names of half of the things that I'm using, but I like the texture. I usually get stuff that I like the texture, the size, the shape. I don't really care about the material, and I don't really care about the name of the product. All those industrial guys and people who deal with it probably would know, but we don't need to know, right? We just need to use it in our art. So I'm adding more stuff, smaller stuff in between the gaps that I have, and you just keep on filling those. This is part of a pipe. I think it's a water pipe or something. You just keep filling all those little gaps on the frame and that you want with stuff that have nice texture and nice shape. That's a zipper there, and a button, and a washer, and a spring, and you just add them. And I'm using E6000 because that's a really strong adhesive. It takes a while to dry, but once it's dry, it's so strong, nothing will fall off, I promise you. It's better than hot glue. It's better than whatever glue that you want. It's an industrial grade glue, so it's really good. So I'm just keep adding stuff to my frame, and I really like how that looks at this stage, which is not very pretty because there is no cohesiveness, and all the embellishments that I've added have different shape and color and texture, and it's not that bad, but I don't really like that. Not at this point, anyway. So I'm adding a little bit of flour, and I'm removing those little leaves that they have in the bottom because I don't like them. And I'm going to attach them to my frame. I'm going to take some smaller ones too. And also I get a lot of questions about how do you plan your piece, or do you plan what you want to do? Well, I have a general image in my head, but usually when I start working, it never comes out the way I envisioned it, because my work process takes me sometimes to other places. For example, I didn't plan on using flowers, and now it seems like a good idea, so I don't resist whatever idea comes into my head. I just go with it wherever it takes me. So for the smaller stuff, sometimes I need to use my tweezers. That helps. So you need to wait for this adhesive to dry, because like I said, it takes a while to dry, and you don't want anything to move because everything needs to be really attached strongly to the frame for our next step. And the good thing about that adhesive is that because it dries slowly, then you can change your mind and remove things or change their place, and there is no problem with that. So just keep on adding stuff, smaller and smaller stuff. Just adding it to the frame in layers. I love layers. The more layers you have, the more complex and rich your piece will look, and it will look more interesting, because every time you look at it, you'll discover something else that you didn't notice before. Now I'm creating a little bit of balance because I have the other big cogwheel in the corner, and I need another one just to balance the whole thing. And I want some smaller cogwheels, and these actually I got at Michael's. So there are a lot of steampunk products today at craft stores and things like that, so you can also get a lot of stuff there. So I'm adding a little bit of more cogwheels to my frame, and it looks kind of industrial at this point, but not very cohesive. So the next step that we're going to do is cover the whole thing with paint. Previously, when we did something similar to this, we covered everything with gesso and then sprayed it, if you remember. But this time, we're not going to cover it with gesso. We are going to cover it with acrylic paint. And I'm just adding a few shades of brown and black. So I'll have a very dark brown, kind of a black acrylic paint mixture. You can just use acrylic paint. I seem to have run out of brown. That was the last of it, I think. So I'm just going to create this mixture here with all the browns and the black that I have, because I don't want the color to be flat. And when you mix colors, you get a shade that is all the colors together, and that seems to me sometimes, or actually always, they seems to me a richer color, less flat. It's very difficult to explain, but I think the color's nicer this way. Plus I don't have enough of each, so I mix them all together and I get a lot of paint. So it's a very dark brown, black kind of paint, and we're gonna start painting the whole thing. Now this takes time because you need to cover every little embellishment, nook and cranny, every little hole and everything. So it will take time. Be patient. Use a brush with long hair so you'll be able to reach all those difficult places, and just go slowly. And I'm just gonna speed things up and make it a little bit shorter for you in this video because it does take a long time, but make sure to reach everything. Something that can help you, which I didn't do, is to color everything, paint everything after you add the texture on the frame, before you add your embellishments. Excuse me. And this way it will be easier, a little bit easier. So this is how it looks after it's painted. And make sure everything is very dry. Just gonna bring a larger craft, and then we're gonna spray. Now I'm spraying it with brown and 2 shades of brown spray ink. And well, you might think that you can't see other colors on black, but you can, because the acrylic paint is opaque. The sprays are transparent and they have a little bit of shimmer in them, and they definitely color the black, if that makes sense. And you can see the gold, coppery, browny hue or paint or color that they gave the black. So it's just an accent color. If you would go in with, let's say, yellow, you will not see yellow, of course, because the background is very dark, it's black. But when you go in with something that is complementary to the color and just gives it a tint, just gives it an accent, another layer of color, then it becomes really pretty. You can see. Now I can spray this all day. Add another layer and another layer. You just spray as much as you like and until you feel you're happy with the color that you have reached, and then stop. Once you're happy with the color that you have reached, then we're going to go on to adding a little bit of turquoise. These are supposed to be accents of oxidization of like copper. It gets green when it oxidizes, so that's the point here. And I'm using a dry brush, very dry brush with acrylic paint, and just going over some of the embellishments and adding it very, very softly, very, very lightly. We just want it to be an accent. We don't want everything to be green right now. So just add it with a little dry brush as accents, and that gives it another dimension, a little bit more depth, a little bit more of a real look of old rusty metal steampunk embellishments. Remember how we started, and look at it now. Isn't that pretty? I love it. Steampunk is so magical to me. It's like aging metal in a second. Now I'm using also some alcohol ink with the same green turquoise color, and adding it with my finger for another dimension of that rust and oxidization, or however you say that. It's another shade of green. So I'm adding that here and there. And of course, make sure everything is always dry before you move on to your next layer, because once I'm done with this, I'm gonna spray it some more. The more layers you do, the more realistic it becomes, because things like that, like metal embellishments where they sit outside or somewhere and months or years or weeks go by, each layer of whatever rust and color and aging effect they have on them is because of time, and you're trying to mimic that in a 20-minute video. So the more layers you do, the more real it looks, because it looks like a lot of time has passed and these things were sitting there for a long, long time. So I'm adding some more sprays, and the same sprays that you used before. I'm actually using two types of sprays by Lindy Stamp Gang. One is has two tones, and one is just regular spray. That's really, they have really cool effect. Now what I'm going to add is some ink gold pastes, which are very shimmery and very metallic looking. Again, to add more texture, more effect, more color effect to my frame. I'm mostly going to use the gold one because that's the metally color scheme that I have here, and I'm just rubbing it with my finger. It's like a rub and buff, more or less. So I'm just adding in here and there, again as accents. And once you're happy with that, you can just go ahead and add some more sprays. Of course, I can do this all day. I can just spray and add paint and keep on spraying, and at some point you need to stop, or at least I need to stop. A little bit more of that acrylic turquoise green paint just to finish things. And look how beautiful that looks. Doesn't it look like it was sitting outside for like 20 years or something? I really like that. Just need to figure out what photo to put it there. Maybe I'll just hang it on the wall with no photo, because I really like the texture of that inner paper that I used. A little bit more here and there. Don't be afraid to use your fingers. They're the best tool that you have, let me tell you that. Because that's the most controlled tool, your fingers. And this is part of the fun, right, you guys? Getting your fingers dirty. In a good way, of course. So, just adding those finished touches. Drying every little thing. We want to make sure everything is dry. Another reason to dry everything is because that's when you see the real color. That is my son doing it again. Sorry about that, you guys. Just cleaning here the mess. Just want to remove everything. Oh, by the way, I did remove the flowers. I didn't use them eventually, but you can keep them. Look at my hands, isn't that fun? So this is how it looks up close. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope you liked this video. Please like, comment, or subscribe, and I'll see you next time.